What is going on? Welcome to Marshall Time, episode 37, bro. Final four of the NBA. The conference finals are set. Here on the East Coast, Indiana and Boston. Out on the West, we got Dallas, Minnesota. We're gonna have all of this show and the rest of these next couple weeks talk about these series. But let's recap how we got to this point. First, Minnesota taking down the champs, the Denver Nuggets. In Denver, they were down by like 20 points, but they came back. And then Indiana, of course, taking care of business in New York. In Madison Square Garden. So let's tackle the New York Indiana game seven first. What are some of the takeaways for you?
Well, for one, man, we gotta give kudos to Indiana. First of all, I didn't think that they would even make this series that competitive. I didn't see it going seven. I honestly thought the Knicks could get them out of there in five, but I knew the Pacers might be able to take it to six just because of how they play. But give props to them, man. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton stepped up. I'm a Tyrese fan, but the truth about him is he has times where he chooses to be aggressive or not to, and he came out and was aggressive in that game seven, like your best player should be. Give props to Siakam. Siakam was balling. We know he struggled. OG was locking him up most of the series, but he was able to get off because OG was hurt. TJ McConnell off the bench, just a collective effort. Miles Turner defensively, he hit some big shots. The Knicks, man, they just burnt out in the end. I mean, too many injuries. OG got hurt. We seen Brunson wasn't himself. Dante was balling, but Josh Hart was hurt too. They were already missing Randall. It's tough, but I mean, that's what happens in the playoffs, man. Like, everybody has to be ready, next man up. But give shout outs to Indiana. Honestly, I don't want me personally. I don't want to see them in the conference finals because I don't think it's going to go well for them. But hey, they did what they had to do. They won fair and square, so I give kudos to them.
Yeah, I mean, look, people don't understand how much of a grind playoff basketball is. Like we're now in the conference finals, right? So it's whoever wins this, you still got another whole 7 game series to play, and so it's a grind to go through the first round, the second round, the conference finals, and then finally, if you're fortunate enough to make a finals run. And so with the Knicks, to me, this was almost predictable. They weren't going to make an NBA Finals. That just wasn't going to happen with the fatigue mentally and physically, and with the injuries that they were dealing with. Julius Randle, obviously, Mitchell Robinson was huge. OG got hurt. It didn't take you long to figure out yesterday that he wasn't ready. Like, I saw the first time up down the court, I'm like, that don't look like a regular run. You know what I mean? And so it's like, yeah, they were cooked at that point. Josh Hart dealing with injuries, like he wasn't himself, right? And so at a certain point, that effort is going to expire when you consider the fatigue and the physical struggles that the Knicks were trying to figure out and deal with. Now, they did the best that a team could do. Jalen Brunson has played amazing. Dante DiVincenzo was amazing. Josh Hart was amazing. Deuce McBride, Alec Burks, like certain guys, Isaiah Hartenstein, like guys stepped up, right? But at a certain point, you're going to hit that wall. And it's been an emotional run for the Knicks and their fans, right? Like even the Sixers series, that was a lot mentally and physically taxing, right? And so you look at it like, wow, that was just the first round series matchup, right? Like, we still got a whole another round to go and then possibly another round. And so this was always going to be the end of the story for the Knicks this year. This was how it was going to end. That wall, at a certain point, you're going to keep going. You're going to keep going through it, but at a certain point, it's going to sit you down, right? And so that's what we saw with New York. They just ran out of gas, and with the Pacers, with how they play, it was the perfect storm, right? Like, oh, we want to get up and down, we want to score. The Knicks are tired. They run out of bodies. Oh, this is us. Like Game 7, honestly, was sort of like that trap game for the Knicks, concerning what they were going up against and what Indiana wanted to do, and we saw that. On the flip side, Minnesota and Denver, look, bro, like we texted. I thought it was over. Like it was a 20-point game, third quarter. Denver's home, like championship experience. Joker, Murray, they're going to close this out. And then, like, man, kudos to Minnesota for saying, look, this is our moment. This is our time. Anthony Edwards wasn't playing at his best. He didn't have a rhythm, but other guys stepped up. Karl-Anthony Towns stepped up. Rudy Gobert made a crazy fadeaway that shocked everybody watching. Jay McDaniels doing what he had to do. Mike Conley being a presence. Naz Reid. And so for Denver, it comes down to, look, you got nothing outside of Murray and Jokic. Aaron Gordon, I think, had 4 points. Michael Porter Jr. never seemed to be confident at all. Christian Braun and Peyton Watson just aren't ready. And so that's what it comes down to. Outside of the Joker and Murray, Denver couldn't get anything else going offensively. And Minnesota capitalized. Minnesota had the energy. I feel like Jamal and Nikolai ran out of gas towards the end. They were asked to do too much at a certain point. Um, yeah, and that momentum, once it swings, it's swinging. Rudy Gobert hits that fadeaway, and like at that point, it's over. Like if Rudy Gobert, who we know offensively is not giving you anything as far as being a threat, if he's making fadeaways, then let's go home. It's done. And so that's my takeaway from what happened in Denver last night.
Yeah, man, I was shocked. I was shocked, honestly. Like you said, me and you were texting. When they went up 20, I'm in a 2K league. I had a playoff game of my own to play. I said, "Yeah, I'm about to go play this game real quick." I come back. I check my group chat with my friends. They talking about, yo, Nas Reed going crazy, blah, blah, blah. I check the score. They're up 3. I'm like, hold on. What is going on? So, yeah, kudos to them. I want to give Cat some credit because before this series, I didn't think the T Wolves would win because I just didn't think Cat would be able to get off enough with Aaron Gordon out there, being a dog. But Cat had, I believe, 23 and 12 last night, man. That was in the game 7, and he had his moments in the series where he didn't play good, but he had good moments too. So I'm gonna give him kudos for that. Gobert, man, like the whole media was giving him flack, for the game. What was that, game 6 or that game 5, whatever game Jokic killed them. And even earlier in the first half, Jokic was killing them, but Gobert locked in. He started grabbing more boards. He made the right plays offensively. We talk about the crazy shot he made. I mean, you got to give him his props. Also, Anthony Edwards, man, he showed what a true leader is. For him to be only 22, 23 years old, he's such a leader, bro. Like, he wasn't playing. He didn't shoot well, right? He was getting double teamed all night. We've seen so many times. We see it in our own, Embiid. Once Embiid gets double and he misses a few shots, he gets frustrated. He gets really emotional. And he's older than Ant. Ant stayed composed. He stayed like a true leader out there. He stayed locked in on defense. And then when the fourth came, he made some clutch plays, some clutch shots, right? That's what you want out of your superstar. Like basketball's about rhythm. Sometimes when teams come out doubling you, playing hard defense on you, you're not going to hit all your shots in the beginning. But he stayed the course. He kept his mental. And you can just tell he enjoys playing basketball, like not just scoring, not just being flashy. He likes playing defense. He likes, cheering on his teammates. And McDaniels, bro, talk about stepping up when you needed to, right? Past 2 games, he scored 20 plus. I remember when he got his max, well, not even his max, he just got a big contract extension. I think it was last year. I said to myself, like, he has potential, but he has to start scoring, man, because we know he could play defense, but when you're making that money, you got to put the ball in the hoop. And he did it in the 2 biggest games of their season. So they just stepped up, man. I like what they're doing over there. Obviously, their coach is right. You know what I mean? Their head coach is still out, right? Like, I mean, he's there, but
He's on the side. He can't really
he's
move.
still on the side. Like, he can't move, and they're still out there. You know what I mean? So it's just fun to see, man. It's fun to watch that.
So it brings us to the conference finals, man. We're going to start with the Western Conference, Minnesota and Dallas. And, like, look, I love it. The storylines, right? It's Ant-Man, the up-and-coming star. It's Kai, who's been around. He's won a championship. He's sort of redeeming himself as far as his image, like I'm glad that, he's been able to just lock in and keep his head low and do what he has to do and not worry about the nonsense and whatever the conversation is that goes on with him, right? And now Luka, who's sort of been in the conversation for a couple years now as far as one of the best players in the league, one of the faces of the league. At this point, can he reach? We've been waiting. Can he reach that NBA Finals level now? Like, we've seen him perform amazing in the playoffs, but now you gotta take that next step. If you want to be in that upper echelon, you gotta make a finals and you gotta win one too, right? And so the storylines with this one is amazing. I'm excited about this. I don't know. For me, you can talk about Ant, Luka, and Kai, but this comes down to the guys outside of those, right? So we're talking about a Jay McDaniels. We're talking about a Nas Reed, right? We're talking about a PJ Washington. We're talking about a Derrick Jones Jr., Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively. I mean, Washington and Jones hooped against OKC. Like, they made some timely buckets. If it wasn't for them, it's a whole different conversation, right? And so can those guys continue to hit those big shots, right? Can a Nas Reed make an impact, continue to make an impact? Can Jay McDaniels continue to be a threat offensively? Because we know what Ant, Luka, and Kyrie want to do, but in these playoffs, time and time again, we see there's always guys that you sometimes can't account for that are going to have those big moments or spurts of scoring and big plays and hustle plays that we've seen from Minnesota, we've seen from Dallas now. And the one thing about Dallas that Minnesota's defense will have to adjust to, because Jamal Murray is a talented scorer, but it's levels to this, right? Like Kyrie and Luka, they're dangerous at any given point. There's different angles with which they can deliver these passes, the way that they can make their teammates better from the perimeter and the post. When you talk about making players better, it's also about, yes, his leadership and being a vocal leader sometimes, and also with your example, but also when you're out there in the court, seeing passing lanes that the normal person won't see, that gives a PJ Washington an open look, right? That, oh, you cut, I'm gonna find you, like, you know what I mean? That gives these guys this confidence to continue to be ready to shoot at any given moment. The Nuggets didn't have that outside of obviously Joker. He's a guy that's special in that way, but you have two guys in Kyrie and Luka when they're locked in and at their best, their ability to manipulate the defense, get fouls, finish. We know Kyrie's one of the best finishers we've ever seen play. This is going to be a test. And also those big guys, Lively and Gafford, to me, that's going to be the biggest. I'm looking at that. Cat and Gobert versus Lively and Gafford. Can they be active? Can they cause havoc? Those rim runs, Kyrie and Luka throwing it up, can they sort of manipulate the defense in that? But if Lively and Gafford can be active and frustrate Gobert and Cat, it's going to be a fun series. So that's my storyline right now.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing, and just the rebound battle too. Like those two going against Cat and Gobert, like, and that's the thing. I don't think Dallas is going to start both Gafford and Lively. So
PJ get the 4, I think, point
yeah,
guard.
that's a little messy because Cat and Gobert can kill on the glass, and McDaniels can rebound too, and can rebound too. For you know what I mean. Another matchup that we got to look out for is definitely going to be Kyrie, and Ant. And even said it, and this is why I love him. He said my matchup is going to be Kyrie. He said it already. Let it be known. We already know McDaniels is probably going to go on Luka. Well, he is. We know Kyrie's going to go on Ant. Luka, he'll get his buckets. McDaniels is going to make it tough on him. You know that's we already know that's going to happen. It's going to come down to Kyrie and Ant. Kyrie in the OKC series, he wasn't as aggressive until the last game, and I heard some things what he say. One, he wants to lock in more on defense, which is cool. Two, he wants to give his teammates more confidence, which is good too. But now it's a time where like, yo, it's the final four teams in the league. Here, you're playing against probably the hottest team right now. We gonna need you to be that bucket that we know you are. But the thing about Ant can lock down, man. Like he's bigger than Kyrie. He's athletic. He's disciplined. So it's going to be interesting. And then we also have to see who is Kyrie going to guard on the other end. I know he's been giving out more effort on defense, but at the end of the day, he's still 6'2". He's not the strongest guy. So who are you going to put him on? You know what I mean? Because you already have to worry about Luka. Luka's a defensive liability too. So we're already down two, and then when it comes to defensive liability versus the offense. So I don't know. I mean, personally, I think the Timberwolves are going to win. I could see them winning in 6. It might go 7, but I like the Timberwolves just because I think they're too deep and they just have too many two-way players. They won't. I don't think PJ Washington will get left wide open. How he's been getting left open. So we'll just see how that goes.
Yeah, like I mean, it's going to be a fun matchup. Um, and you pick Minnesota. I'm gonna go with Dallas. Um, I feel like Kyrie has another level that we know that he has in him. Um, and I want to see. Um, One thing for Minnesota, they got to watch out with Cat and his foul issues. Can Minnesota, can Luka and Kyrie sort of, when they get that opportunity to sort of bait Cat into some fouls, you know what I mean? Can they get that going? Can they get some frustration going when it comes to that? And so, I think it's going to be a series of like who can exploit certain matchups, adjustments. Like it's going to be a chess match. Like it's going to be fun. But I love most about this series. It's showing how two different things, right? Like the value. There's value in NBA teams all across, right? And so what I mean is like PJ Washington was on the Hornets. Nobody was thinking about him. Daniel Gafford was on the Wizards. The casual fans not thinking about Daniel Gafford. All of a sudden, you play on a winning organization with two superstar level players and Luka and Kyrie. We're thinking about PJ Washington, totally different. Daniel Gafford, totally different. Naz Reid was undrafted. Now look what he's doing. Jay McDaniels was the 28th pick in 2020. Guess what team drafted him? Just for comedy's sake. Just wild guess. It wasn't Minnesota.
So, the Sixers.
No, the Lakers.
Oh, snap.
So this not having a Lakers conversation, but just further proof that there's this conversation about this being a weak draft. Well, Jay McDaniels, you look at that 2020 draft. Desmond Bane was the 30th pick. Maxey was a late pick. Emmanuel Quickley was a late pick, and Jay McDaniels was 28th. Like there's value in those later picks in the first round if you see the vision of a prospect and you actually nurture what he does do well, right? And that's what we're seeing with Jay McDaniels, and now he's an offensive threat too. Derek Jones was undrafted. He's bounced around the league. Nickeil Alexander-Walker bounced around a couple teams, the Pelicans and the Jazz, and so the importance of role players and making deep runs. And now the way the West is looking now, what you're seeing with Dallas and Minnesota, OKC, how Memphis is going to be over the next couple years. If when they get their guys back, like really building a team, really getting these draft picks right, really having a plan for these guys and developing them. So I'm happy that teams like Minnesota and Dallas are at this point right now, and they're showing like there's so many ways in building a winner. Thinking about like, oh, what if Kyle Kuzma was on a winning team, or what if a Kobe White was on a winning team, right? There's a lot of guys everywhere on losing situations, but put them in the right situation. A Colin Sexton who's in Utah, like these are guys all across the league that teams need to look at more and like, man, we can utilize these guys and make and lift us to another level, because they had Grant Williams, and when they made that deal, I'm like, Grant ain't it. Like I didn't buy into Dallas when they said Grant Williams is the guy that's going to help us get to that next level. I knew right away that wasn't it. They figured it out by the deadline and said, we got to fix this. And so kudos to them for saying, look, Grant wasn't it. Like, it wasn't even a full year. So salute to the Mavericks front office for figuring out, like, nah, we got to get better. We got PJ Washington, and now look at us. PJ was huge in OKC. So that's going to be a fun one. Indiana, Boston. Look, Indiana's made it this far, so respect. But to me, this comes down to just talent level. And Boston has too much of it. You talk about Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Derek White's been playing amazing. Drew Holiday. I know Porzingis has to come back eventually. He's supposed to miss the first 2 games, and we'll see after that. I just don't think Indiana is going to be able to. They don't defend anyway. They were like the 27th ranked defense in the league. Boston, top 5 in defense and scoring. When their 3-point shot is cooking, it's over. So for me, Boston locks in. You win these first 2 games, it's a wrap. Like, I think they have to lock in these first 2 games. Don't give Indiana any hope. Most people are probably saying Celtics in 6. If the Celtics are locked in, I wouldn't be surprised if they win in 5 games. Like, if they're really locked in, like, not the Boston that has been known to mess around and, like, whatever. If they're really locked in, they can win in 5 games. Like, they beat Miami in 5. They beat Cleveland in 5. They can beat Indiana in 5. Respect to Therese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam. But for me, I don't think there's anybody on that team that Boston looks at as like, yo, like there's no Jalen Brunson across there. You know what I mean? There's no Jimmy Butler. There's no Ant-Man, right? Halliburton's a great player, but as you talked about in the New York series, like there's moments where like he's not aggressive, right? And I don't think he puts the same level of pressure that a Jalen Brunson puts on the defense, right? And so, to me, I think a Boston would have. I think this favors Boston instead of playing a New York team that's just goes hard and Brunson is just going to give you 30 and 40. I think Indiana is going to be, yeah. I think Boston has it. Siakam has been their champion, obviously, but it's not enough. Miles Turner, can he exploit the front court of Boston? Yeah, but to me, Miles Turner really sometimes he doesn't utilize the size that he has. Honestly, um, I don't think he's like this big old threat or that's somebody that you actually, are really too concerned about. He can knock down open shots, but like let's be honest here. You know what I mean? So yeah, TJ McConnell's solid, but man, it just comes down to talent. Indiana doesn't play defense. You're not going to beat Boston.
Yeah, I just don't see where Indiana has the advantage. Like it's just that simple. Like where do they have the advantage at? Boston is a better. They're just a better team. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm.
The play style of Indiana, I feel like it's going to fall into Boston's hands. Like
Mm-hmm.
Indiana likes to get out and run. They like to get up shots, but when they're missing, Boston is going to come right back. They have the athletes to get out and run. They can move the ball, and like
Mm-hmm.
you said, when Boston is hitting, it's over at that point. I really don't see an angle at where they could win. Like Tyrese and Pascal would have to play out of their minds. Like I'm talking like
Nah, they
Kobe
got to
and
get.
Shaq,
You got to
Kobe
get.
and Kobe and Shaq level, and then they'll need like T.J. McConnell to keep playing how he's been playing. They'll need Miles Turner to be out there, hitting shots. They just need too much to go right for them to win this series. Um, Indiana's not a bad team. Boston is just that much better than them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But this is the thing about Boston. They have to lock in there. Like they can't have these games. Honestly, to me, they should sweep them. Like if they're really locked in every game how they need to be to go on this run that they're trying to win a championship, they should get them out of here. They should sweep them, honestly.
They should have swept
Because
Miami, and they could have swept Cleveland.
yeah, yeah. The thing about them is like we said, it's the way they play, man. They play so stupid sometimes to where they get stuck in this cycle of just taking threes, taking threes, taking threes,
Mm-hmm.
and it's painful to watch when they're missing because it's like, bro, y'all, you have two guards that are them two wings that are like 6'7", 6'8". They're athletic. Drew Holiday, he's a good point guard. Derek White is a good guard. He can get to the rim. Like, and then when Porzingis is playing, we see Porzingis shooting 30 footers all game, and it's like he can score some buckets in the paint too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, man, they just have to lock in. Honestly, that's what it really comes down to. So yeah,
Yeah, man. Like if Boston, I keep saying if Boston doesn't make the finals this year, like then what are we doing here? Like, you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, come on. Like this is to me, especially I wasn't gonna if it was Denver and Boston, I was gonna pick Denver. But to me, I would say Boston's my favorite to win it all right now. Um, now that Denver's out of it, but like when it comes to this series against Indiana specifically, man, like Nimhard, who's he guarding, right? Like we saw Brunson cook him, so imagine you get Jalen Brown. What you gonna do? Jason Tatum, Derek White. Like these are the things that you gotta factor into. Um, Aaron Neesmith, I mean, solid player, but like you know, um, Obi Top and Isaiah Jackson, he's a player. They hustle, but once again, these aren't major. Like Obi Toppin isn't a major offensive threat. Isaiah Jackson isn't a major offensive threat, right? And so if Tatum and Brown and Derek White are really locked in and fully engaged on a nightly basis, like there's no there's no excuse. Like there's no reason why they shouldn't take care of this series quickly. You know what I mean? Versus a Minnesota and a Dallas where it's like, okay, this could be a long one. Like there are certain matchups that can be exploited. There are adjustments. You can make an argument for both Minnesota and Dallas on why they could win because there are major threats on both sides of it. Indiana and Boston, there's no adjustment that Indiana can make. Like there's nothing that you can. There's nothing. Sometimes it's just on paper. It just is what it is. Halliburton's a great player. Pascal Siakam is a really good player, but like Halliburton had moments in the New York series where he was just like, "What are you doing? Where are you at?" You know what I mean? And he's liable to do it again against Boston, which a team that can really defend with Drew Holiday and Derek White. Like those guys really can defend. And you got Tatum and Brown. You know what I mean? And so, like you said, it's going to take one of Halliburton and Siakam's going to have to give you 25 to 30 every night, every game. Like there's no if and like both of those guys got to carry it. And you got to get execution from Nembhard and Nesmith, and Miles Turner has to. If Miles Turner decides to really, you don't have Porzingis, Al Horford, Luke Cornett. This is what I got. Xavier Tillman. Like if Miles Turner decides to really be a bully down there and take advantage, which I don't see it happening, they really, you know what I mean? Like it kind of, I don't think that's going to hurt the Celtics these first two games, right? And so they play tomorrow, game one. I think Boston wins it. Yeah, I don't see a situation where Indiana wins this series. I'd be shocked. I'd be shocked if it goes to a seventh game, sixth game. Honestly, like right now, I'll say Celtics in 5.
Yeah.
I'll give Indiana the respect of a game on their home floor, and just typical. You got to account for a Boston mental lapse game. That's just at this point, I'm going to expect it. I mean, they lost to Miami, they lost to Cleveland when they shouldn't have. Honestly, they could have easily swept both those teams. Indiana, worthy opponent. They've made it this far, so I'll give them a 1 win at home. But at the end of the day, this is about Boston on a mission to get to a championship and win a championship this year. Tatum and Brown know it. Like this is the 6th time Boston's made it this far in the last 8 years. Brown has made it all 6 times. Tatum has made it all 5 times. They've made the finals once, and we know the Warriors won that one. And so, yeah, there's no more excuses. Like you have the experience, you've been there. Indiana is not. No, they can't match up with you. And so, yeah, and whoever you play between Minnesota and Dallas, you still have the experience factor on them, and the talent factor. If we're being honest, right? Like as far as starting 5, pound for pound, this is the best starting 5 left. So experience, starting 5, strength of talent. Like Boston has to get it done. Like you got to. Denver's out of it now. Boston, we're looking at you now, and so I want to see how Tatum. To me, I'm looking at Jason Tatum this series and in the finals too. Like we know Jaylen Brown is going to be aggressive. That's never a question. But Tatum, are you going to continue to settle for 3-point shots, or are you going to really utilize your size? If you have a Nembhard or a Halliburton on you on the switch, what you going to do? You're going to do your favor. Sometimes it's like you can read what Tatum's going to do on offense with the ball. He's a great player, but it's like sometimes it's almost predictable what he's going to do. Like that little step back, side 3. You know what I mean? But like really attack. And when he attacks, when he's mixing it up offensively, giving the defense different looks, that's when he's at his best. And so that's what I want to see. But game 1 tomorrow between Indiana and Boston, and then we got Minnesota and Dallas as well. It's going to be fun. I'm excited about Minnesota and Dallas for sure. But yeah, we'll be talking about this the next couple of weeks, and we still got the finals to talk about. NBA draft coming up. I got a lot to say about the NBA draft, and just I don't like the conversation about this draft class. We can talk more about that, but I think it's highly disrespectful to these players. And it's ignorance when you look at past draft class and you really go pick by pick, and like most of these guys don't end up as all-stars. You look at it. Let's just keep it honest. But that's another conversation. We'll definitely get into it. But draft talk is one of my favorite things to get into. But we'll dive into that in a couple of weeks for sure when it's draft time. But yeah, episode 37. Remember, watch us on YouTube, Apple Podcasts. Did you want to add anything else about these series or anything else coming up in the basketball world?
No, I think that's it, man. I'm just excited to watch it all go down. It starts tomorrow.
All right, enjoy it. We still got, man. It feels like it's been like a grind of a playoff already. Like you have a deeper appreciation of what it takes to like make a finals run, because you're going from April to June. Like a first round series can be a grind, and then the second round, and then like, man, we still got a whole nother 7-game series to go to, and then another round just to win it. So appreciate what these teams are doing. I'm excited to see what these special talents. Also, I mean, between Ant-Man, Luka, and Jason Tatum, somebody's about to get their first ring. You know what I mean? And so that's another storyline and exciting thing. Like we always talk about the face of the league conversation now. These are the names that always come up as far as the younger players outside of Ja Morant, right? These are the main guys, the Lukas, the Ant-Man, Jason Tatum. And so let's lace it up, check rock, who's going to rise to the occasion, because it's the conversation on social media is going to be on those three guys, for better or for worse. You know, with respect to Tyrese Halliburton, you're not in that club. You're just not. So, Ant-Man, Luka, and Tatum, yeah, it's going to be a lot of funny memes and conversations on Twitter. But just as a basketball fan, I'm excited to see who rises up and just see some great moments, some great performances. And that Dallas Minnesota series is going to have it. So I'm excited. Y'all enjoy the games. Follow us. Continue to watch us as we continue to go down, analyze these series. Y'all take it easy.
Peace out.